to this rule cycle. All right, I'll start over. We're going to start off by going over the rules change process. Since last cycle, we did not make any rules changes. The proposals that were submitted for that cycle are being carried over to this cycle or moved over to this cycle automatically. Those were presented at the national meeting in June. And then we opened up submissions for additional proposals from July 11th through September 20th. As those came in, they were reviewed by mainly myself or Sarah, depending on if they were cheer or dance, to make sure it was nothing that was so far out of line we knew it didn't need to be considered, or to make sure if it was something that was outside of the scope of the rules committee, it was passed along to the appropriate committee, such as the World Advisory Board or the sanctioning committee. Once all the proposals were in, the rules committee discussed those. That was done in October, and the proposals were made public on a webinar on November 2nd. Shortly after that webinar, we polled the members for feedback to make sure we got as much input on the proposals that were submitted as possible to continue deliberations about what should be done or not done. Okay, November, the rules committee considered all the feedback. Then shortly after that, we made recommendations to the board of directors. The polling results were made public in December, and then the board discussed and voted on which changes should be made. That gets us to today, where we're going to announce which changes will be made. And these changes will take effect for the season starting June 1st for the 23-24 season. So at this point in the process, we are now letting everyone know what changes will be made for next season versus debating what changes should be made for next season. We good so far, Robin, in the chat?
Yes, all good.
All right, so let's start off with our dance age grid, which Sarah's going to take over.
Hi, everyone. So we had two proposals that were polled and went in front of the rules committee, and one of them was passed along and one was not. We will be raising the bottom age for the open division for the 2023-24 season. It will be coming up one more year to 16, and that will correspond with the international age. So we'll be the same across the board. Again, however, we are not coming up with the junior age. So if you are a team that looks toward Worlds in your season, you need to know that at the beginning of the season, you'll have to field a team that is Worlds ready, meaning they will need to come up the bottom age. So we'll have more correspondence. We'll make sure everyone's very well aware of that. But just for our purposes today, knowing that the open division bottom age will be rising to 16. And that's our only age grid edit. And then we're going to move on to our dance rules. So we have a few amendments to our prep rules. Some are just clarifications, and then we do have a couple changes as well. So the first amendment, prep individual rule 1, we added the clause about proper use of hands-free palms, and that's to match the verbiage in our tiny rule. So we're just adding that while you're not allowed to do inverted skills with palms in your hands, if you're using hands-free palms properly, you will be allowed to do those skills. Prep individual rule number 2, we're adding a D to that rule. Airborne skills with or without hand support are not allowed over another dancer. So dancers cannot tumble over other dancers. And then prep pairs, rules 3. We just added a purple note there clarifying that novice tier dancers cannot have lifts in their routines at all. So it was just a little uncertain, and we wanted to make sure that everybody looking at the rules knew what we were talking about there. And then our rules additions, we will be expanding individual rule 2 for minis only. So previously tiny and minis were allowed to do an aerial only. And then after meeting with the rules committee, and again, going through the process that Andre outlined before, we realized we need to kind of keep up with the acro skills that are going on in the rest of the dance world. And so in our mini division, you will now be allowed to do a front aerial and a back handspring as well. So one more time, just to clarify, in tiny, dancers may only be allowed to do an aerial, a side aerial. In minis, they may do a side aerial, a front aerial, or a back handspring. So it opened that up a little bit more for dancers. And then finally, in youth, junior, senior, and open, dancers will now be allowed to execute kip ups with palms in their hands. They may not do hip overhead rotation skills with palms in their hands. It is a kip up only. And then finally, we had a glossary addition. In our inverted skills and lifts rule, we talk about a spotter, and we've realized it's a little different than the definition of a cheer spotter. So the definition of a spotter being added to the glossary is a dancer not physically involved in a skill or lift whose proximity and attention to the execution of the skill allows them to provide support and safety to the executing dancer if and when needed. So it's just saying a spotter is someone who's close enough to help a skill if something goes wrong, that they can step in, meaning they're aware and their proximity is close enough. So those are all.
All right, moving to the cheer age grid. We have a few more changes than dance did. Starting off with the youth, junior, and senior ages. So for senior prep and senior novice, the minimum age is being raised to 12 from its current age of 11. As for prep and novice, the elite age is already 12 for the divisions that overlap with prep and novice level. For youth ages, for all youth divisions, the age will be 8 to 12. Currently mixed up a little bit depending on the level of the team. And for all junior divisions, the ages will be 9 to 15, and that is also currently mixed up by level. So senior prep minimum moving up to 12, youth 8 to 12 for everything, and junior 9 to 15 for everything. Going to our open teams, there are a few changes to make sure you note here. So the overlap in the open divisions between having senior open and international open divisions of the same level is being removed. So we're removing international open level 4 while keeping senior open level 4 and senior open level 5. We're removing senior open level 6, keeping international open for level 6 and 7. So senior open 4 and 5, international open 6 and 7. For all open teams, the athlete must be 18. Exactly what we mean by 18 is still going to be finalized. There's a conversation on whether it needs to be 18 at the beginning of the season, such as June 1st of 23 in order to be eligible for the 23-24 season, or there's a possibility of moving that date back a little bit to allow a couple more people time to get 18 before a lot of the open teams would really get into their practice season. And for cheer abilities, we're still discussing adding an additional option for exceptional athletes. So even though the cheer abilities divisions will be on the age grid released later this week, there's a possibility that we're going to add one additional division for exceptional athletes. And that'll be communicated by the time we make the final release later this season. Getting into the cheer rules. Hold on, Robin, any questions so far that need to be addressed?
Just some people asking for birth years in regards to how these changes will affect birth years. So I'm doing some quick math, but I wasn't sure if we have a document that we'll be attaching at some point soon that has those birth years listed out. Yes,
the early release of the age grid for cheer and dance for the age grids and rules will be posted by the end of this week and announced at 2:30 next Monday by the latest. The goal is to put them up later today, definitely be done by the end of this week. So that'll have all the years and stuff you're looking for, including the chart on the back that I believe makes it easiest to tell which division someone is eligible for.
Perfect. And then one other thing somebody put in here, so youth 8 to 12 and junior 9 to 15. Are those changes? That is exactly what the question says.
Are those changes?
Yeah, so youth 8 to 12, is that the correct?
That is what it will be for next season. Yes, that
Perfect.
I believe that's a change. I don't believe any of them were 8 to 12 this season. So I believe that's a change for every youth division.
Okay, and junior 9 to 15.
Yes. All
Okay.
juniors would be 9 to 15, which I know is a change because junior went up to 16 this season.
Okay. All right, that's it for now. Well, hold on, just a couple more. Just so I'm understanding correctly, you were jumping 4 years for the minimum age for an open team from 14 to 18.
For level 6 teams or for non-level 7, that is correct. Yes.
Okay. And bottom age for senior?
For which senior? Senior prep is 11. Sorry, it's 12 going up from 11. Senior elite 1 through 5, I believe, is 13. And senior worlds is 14, I believe. I'm trying to do that from memory.
The lower level senior ages, except for prep going up by 1. Is that correct?
For this season, I believe that is correct, yes. Because I believe there was a 2-year gap. So we didn't want to do a 2-year change or discuss a 2-year change in one season for senior prep. So we went up 1 this year and we'll discuss going up a second one to make all the senior ages, excluding worlds, the same.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
All right, now going into the cheer rules. The first one is in regards to props. So the quote, pieces of cloth in flags, standard, flat banners, slash signs, pom-poms, megaphones, and pieces of cloth are the only props allowed, will be interpreted as handkerchiefs and similar going forward. Currently, this is interpreted as almost anything made of cloth. So this change in interpretation is not a wording change at all, but will limit what props will be approved for next season. Getting into our skills portion. For level 3 stunts, all these were discussed on the previous webinars, going over the potential changes. So we will now allow up to 1 twist to extended 2-leg stunts, up from the current limit of a half twist. We'll allow inversions up to prep level, when they're currently allowed up to shoulder level. We'll allow multi-base suspended rolls to land in any position. They're currently limited to cradles, load-in positions, flat body prep level positions, or the performing surface. We'll allow suspended roll connection to be hand-arm. It is currently hand-hand in level 3. And we'll allow downward inversions to pass through prep level when currently they must remain at waist level. We're also making an adjustment to downward inversions, bases, or catchers must touch the torso of the top person. Currently holding on to the hand or arm is allowed to count as one of those catchers. Okay. There's a couple more things for level 3 on the next slide. So for level 3 running tumbling, we're going to allow a front handspring before a front tuck, which is currently not allowed. I do want to point out this is the only change that went against polling. And then we're also going to allow non-twisting, non-inverted release moves, initiating from waist level or below to land extended if they're connected to one bracer at prep level or below with a hand-arm connection. The non-twisting, non-inverted pyramid release moves this current season require 2 bracers, so that's going to change to 1 bracer. After polling, we added with the hand-arm connection to make a specific type of connection required in order to do that with 1 bracer. You good, Robin?
Yep.
For level 4 stunts, we're going to allow up to 1.5 twists to extended 2-leg stunts. Currently only 1 twist is allowed. It's also going to be up to 1 twist to extended single-leg stunts, removing the lib platform requirement. Currently, if you do a full up to an extended single leg, it has to finish in a lib or platform. You'll be able to do a full up to any extended single leg in the upcoming season. For downward inversions, we're going to allow downward inversions to pass above prep level. Currently, pancakes are the only downwarded version that can pass above prep level and level 4. But they must continue to not stop or touch the ground while inverted if passing above prep level. So they will be allowed to pass above, but there will be the restriction of not being able to stop inverted or touch the ground if they do. We're also going to allow release moves to land extended and start at prep level or below, where currently they must start at waist level or below. Moving to level 5.
Hey, Andre, can I just
Yeah.
back up for 1 sec? Couple of questions.
Okay.
Ashley would like to know if everyone was against the front handspring punch front, why did it get put in? I'm just reading it exactly as typed. I don't know if we want her to clarify anything that she could put into the chat or if that makes sense to you.
Actually, let me come back to that one at the end because I want to be able to find that email I sent to Allie listing out some of the reasons that we recommended it to the board despite it going against polling.
Perfect. And bottom age for international non-tumble 6, changing to 18 as well?
Yes, that would be considered an open division. There's an international U18 division, which would maintain its current age. I believe that's 14 to 18. But the open side of that with the adult athletes will have an 18 minimum.
Okay. And one other thing in here, wondering, is there an international non-tumble 7?
Not in the United States.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I think that has me pretty caught up. Thank you.
Okay. And we were on level 5, stunts and running tumbling. So level 5 is now going to allow up to 2 twists to prep level stunts and 2 extended 2-leg stunts. Down from the current 2 1/4 twist to prep level and up from the current 1 1/2 to extended 2-leg. So 2 twists, level 5, 2 twists to prep level or extended 2-leg and 1 1/2 twist to extended 1-leg, which is up from the current 1 twist allowed to extended 1-leg. And then in running tumbling, no tumbling is allowed after a full twist. It's currently no tumbling allowed after any twist. So this would allow you to tumble out of an Arabian in level 5. Moving to level 6 stunts. We're going to allow senior teams to perform rewinds with the same restrictions as the international team. It's currently allowed in international open and U18, but not senior. So senior 6 will join the rewind group. Okay, our closing note. The cheer rules will be released without the cheer abilities pages, partially due to the ongoing discussion about the remaining division being added. The age grid will be released with the charts only. Some of the text, such as the D1, D2 split and the division splits, are still being discussed and finalized. So along that line, there will be the D1, D2 discussion will continue next week with the intent of if any changes are going to be made for the upcoming season, we get those to you as soon as possible to make sure you can prepare accordingly. And the discussion regarding 18 plus and exactly where an athlete would need to be 18 to be on an open cheer team is also going to be discussed, and we'll get that to you as soon as possible to make sure you can prepare accordingly. The one thing we know with that is any athlete that is 18 or older as of May 31st of this year would be eligible for an open team next year. So it's if there's any additional time added to that to turn 18 would be the question that we're looking at.
There's a comment in here asking if you could please go over the level 6 stunt changes again.
Yep.
Thank you.
Nope. The level 6 stunt changes allowing rewinds. Currently allowed in international 6 and U18 level 6, but not in senior 6. So senior 6 will be allowed to do rewinds. Junior 6 will not be allowed to do rewinds.
Perfect. And no changes to senior club level 6 divisions for next year. Is that correct? So not open, just our regular club level.
If we're not counting open, there are no changes to the senior six,
Okay,
largely world's eligible divisions.
perfect. And everything you said, we've got a lot of people asking for the years in the grid, and you addressed that that's going to be sent out, put up, also put in the vault as soon as possible. And can you go back to the level 5 tumbling changes for someone, please?
Yeah. Level 5 tumbling change. It'll change to no tumbling allowed after a full twist, where it's currently no tumbling allowed after a twist. So you would be allowed to tumble after a half twist, which would make skills such as Arabian throughs allowed in level 5.
Perfect. Somebody's
I'm
asking,
going to stop sharing long enough to pull up the age grid, the
years.
the chart. Yeah, it would be the
Okay.
back page.
Thank you.
Actually, I think the one I pulled up, it has an extra line on it, but it may be the best one for this moment. Can you see a chart?
Yes.
Okay. Nope, this is an old one. Sorry, ignore this one for a minute. The 18 and older was wrong on that one. That was the only problem with that one that I pulled up a second ago.
And while you're looking at that, Andre, I just want to confirm the early release rules change will also be released with the early release age grid. Like everything that was gone over today will all be put out together at the same time, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Cheer age grid, cheer rules, dance age grid, dance rules. The goal is today, the definite is by the end of this week.
Perfect.
Let's try this again. Okay, are you seeing the chart again?
Yes.
Okay. So the reason there's a couple boxes that are yellow with question marks, that relates to at what point you need to be 18 to be eligible for an open team. And then 2004 is also split because seniors born, if you're born in the late half of the year, 6/104 to 12/31, you are eligible for a senior team. But if you were born in the first half of the year, you are not. And that's also why those columns are gray, to indicate that year of 2004 is split up some.
Okay. Thank you. And I know people are probably like feverishly screenshotting this. You will absolutely get a nice clean copy of it, I assure you. Matt had a question wanting to know, and I know we have it, is there data that outlines how many members took the polls provided on the rules and age grid change proposals?
I believe so. I believe when we did the full release of what was available, it included how many people answered the poll in general or how many people answered each question.
Yeah, Matt, if you want to put your email address in the chat, I can make sure that you get a copy of that. So I definitely think it was sent out via email after those last calls, so I can make sure you get that as well. Perfect. Thanks, Matt. Let me see. I feel like there are a couple more things. Can you go back to level 3 changes, any level 3 changes, if you wouldn't mind?
Yep.
Thank you.
And with all the changes, our rules would be in alignment with ISF rules. So hopefully you're now seeing the first of the two screens for the level 3 changes.
Yep. And then if you could jump over to the tumbling for level 3. Perfect. All right, I think that probably helped those who are asking for that. And then can you just go over, Andre, somebody's asking the age cutoff, June 1st or by birth year. So would you mind just kind of going over where those splits occur in that 2004 range?
That 2004 would only affect whether or not you're eligible for a senior team. June 1st through December 31st is eligible. January through May 31st is not.
And everything else is strictly by year.
Yes.
So it's just the very oldest top range of the senior club division.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. When will these be posted publicly?
In a perfect world at 4 p.m. Eastern today.
Okay.
No later than Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. And somebody wants to know, are these changes final or will there be an option for possible adjustments?
The adjustments, other than the ones mentioned, such as the text on the age grid, determining exactly what, at what point you need to be 18 to be eligible for an open team, the D1, D2 discussion, those are still up for discussion, and some subcommittees are being put together to address those further. Otherwise, the thought is, unless it's a typo or some kind of error or omission from what was supposed to be changed, these are what it's meant to be. At least on the cheer side. I assume that's the same process for the dance side, but would like to get Sarah's confirmation on that. Yeah, she's shaking her head for those that can't see her.
Yes.
And oh, still a couple more questions about that. If we could find that documentation you were talking about with the brown handspring punch front. There's a couple.
I'm looking for it.
Thank you.
Yep. I'm trying to find it on my iPad as the webinar is running on my computer.
Christina is asking, what is the D1, D2 discussion? So Christina, that's basically going to be trying to find the best solution, like truly a brainstorming session. Everybody should be getting an email on it regarding, if prep should be counted in the D1, D2 numbers. If prep isn't counted, what should the number be? So, we know that's a hot area of conversation a lot, and we're definitely trying to find the right way, the best way to go about it. So that's why it's still in further discussion, just trying to come up with the best solution for the industry as a whole. And then after you look for the front, Phil would like to know if you wouldn't mind showing the other level 4 slide. And then he says level 4 tumbling ? So I'm not sure. I'm guessing it's.
There's only one level 4 slide, and it was the one that's showing now.
Okay, perfect. Phil, if that's not what you mean, type it in the chat and we will get you what you need. If you typed a question, 10 minutes ago and I haven't answered it because I lost it, type it back in. I think I've pretty much scrolling back up through to make sure we weren't missing anything. Oh, Andre, level 3 full up. Is it a 2-foot connection the whole time, or can you do a traditional full up and catch the second foot?
You can do a traditional full up and
Okay.
catch the other foot.
Perfect. Or can it land in a platform?
A platform is considered a single leg skill. So it would need to be able to go to a single leg in order to land a platform, unless specified or unless specifically allowed, which is no longer the case because that was a level 4 thing that we'll be removing for next season.
Got it. All right. And Jen wants to confirm, might have missed this. What are the ages for open 6? And again, that is what's going to a bottom age of 18 for all open cheer divisions, correct?
Correct.
Right. Yeah, other than that, we're just definitely have a lot of conversation about the front handspring front. And Katie, clarifying, any open team, regardless of level, has a bottom age of 18, correct?
Yes. That is for US. The ISF age group is different, but and a team that is going up to 18 or older.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think feel free to keep typing things in, guys, but I know Andre's looking at that front handspring front, so he can address that with you.
Yeah, which I'm not with me at all, and that's what's taking so long.
Andre, I think you mentioned that something was in line with the IASF, and it glitched, their computer had a hang up or whatever. Do you remember what you said and when you said that it was in line with the IASF?
I said with all of the rules changes being made, we're now in alignment with the ISF rules.
Gotcha. Okay. I just think when you said IASF, you cut out a little bit on their end.
And I know that due to the front handspring funds in level 3 decision, along with we're going to work with the scoring partners to make it so there's not much pressure to do front handspring funds, even though they're allowed. The way they're rewarded will probably dictate how many people choose to put them in routines or not. And starting off, at least the thought was to not put much pressure on people to do them, at least immediately. So you'll still be able to get high credit with other options. But if you choose to go the front handspring front route, you will be able to. So I know what another thing was, it was one of the few places where what was allowed in forward and back tumbling was not the same for a level.
And then there's some questions in here regarding like how some of these rule changes relate to scoring. Do you have any best suggestion on that? Questions of that nature?
I do not right now. For those of you that received the email yesterday that was announcing Dana Fielding returning, it also said she'll be setting up a scoring committee. So I believe it's too early to be able to answer that question at this point. So I don't know the direction of the scoring committee. I don't know the direction they'll be taking. I know we'll work with them to make sure what we said about not putting unnecessary pressure on doing front handspring funds. We'll work with them to make sure that that statement continues to be true.
Perfect. Thank you. Anything else, guys? Still kind of scrolling to make sure I didn't miss anyone that had a question. Yeah, still just some more conversation on the front handspring front. And somebody just said clarifying, senior 4 open and senior 5 open will be 18 plus only competing at summits. So I know we're not an event producer, but essentially I'm reading that as senior 4 and senior 5 open will still have a bottom age like the rest of the open divisions of 18. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Any cheer division with the word open in it will be 18 plus.
Okay. Perfect. And somebody
Right.
suggested adding non-tumble to other age groups, not just open, but there is that U18, right?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a U18. So far, the non-tumbling divisions have been added following what ISF has added. We have been asked to look into adding additional non-tumbling divisions on the US side specifically also. And that will be discussed. I don't know if that'll be something that will be done in time for next season.
Okay.
All right, so there's been a lot of discussion about moving this bottom age up and making and how that's going to affect gyms and what's happening. What I will tell you is as follows. From the standpoint of inviting interactions between adults and minors who are, and I'm not talking about the coach, the adult minor there. I am talking about the adults on teams with minor athletes on teams in other areas of the USASF and other departments, specifically our conduct and compliance department. If you could read the victim statements, if you could read what was happening in those areas, you too would be in favor of this change from a global standpoint and what is happening in the all-star community. So that is one of the contributing factors to the reason that this is passing and this is going through. There is a duty and a responsibility between inviting the interaction. And for years and years and years, it's existed. And now we've seen what's happened. And the decision has been made that the bottom age, if you are competing in the US on an open team as a part of our organization, the bottom age will be 18.
Oh, you have a lot of thank you, Amy Clarks. Yes, Amy. Well said, Amy. So
Unfortunately, I know more than I would like to know.
okay. Yeah, lots of support there. Thank you for the insight. Oh, say it loud for the people in the back, Amy. Amen. Good move. So awesome.
I'm good. Move on.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else have anything to add in there? Nope, just a lot of support there. Yes, Joe, we are looking at the numbers for the D1, D2 split. That's all still in the process and being considered at every angle.
I think
So-
the two sides that will primarily focus on are whether or not prep athletes should be counted along with the elite athletes for D1, D2. And once we know that side of the discussion, is the correct number to draw the line.
Yeah, so let me give a little insight, Andre, of what's going to happen in this speed discussion process over the next couple weeks, because the decision has to be made. So we're going to start with anybody that is on the RAB, the NAB, the rules committee, event producers, and the connection leaders. So they've been invited to an initial discussion so that we can look at numbers. We can have some like real deep discussions about what all the options are. And when we say options, there are lots of them, right? We can look at the data. We can look at some of the history. Event producers have been hearing a lot. So we talk Tabby, I think, brought up in here the idea that people are hiding their numbers. They're going to other places. And what we're trying to do is make it so that everybody is under this umbrella where accountability exists. So the USASF has guidelines and standards. And the problem is we've got athletes that don't get any of these benefits. They're just not getting the benefits underneath this big umbrella because people don't want the numbers to show up and count towards their D1 and D2 numbers. Event producers are hearing it. Event producers hear why people aren't coming to their sanctioned events. Specifically, it's because of the numbers and how the athletes are classified. We also know we have a problem. There is no entry level to All-Star that people are comfortable with and that they will take and put their athletes in. So prep, there are people that use prep as entry level, and then there are other people that you do not use prep as their entry level. And so those poor kids on the prep teams that are truly entry level are just diminished in terms of their self-esteem and being able to go in and not have to have a full team of something doing something, right? So we're going to start with the smaller group. We're going to dissect some things. We're going to pull some things together. We will then open it up to larger conversations. I don't know, Becky, if Shauna has had the conversation with you about the connection leaders and a ton of small subgroups where they can have real deep conversations and they're representing people and bringing them back. So if you did not apply for the RAB this past season and you weren't on the RAB, we have changed the way we're doing RABs and looking for input and how they're used and whatnot. When the new applications come out, especially those of you that are on here, I encourage you to apply for it because that is one of the places we look for some input before we go to this other level, going out to reaching to the rest of the membership, which PS we will be, but we've got to really look at data and ideas. So that's kind of where we are.
Thank you.
Well, so somebody asked about, wouldn't novice be the entry level? Absolutely it is. The problem is there are some people that want to compete. They don't want to go and they don't like the idea of the way that novice is in terms of their rankings and their ratings. So there are people that want to compete. So they try to, people have created this in between novice and prep as this all-star rec or this rec or something that means, we're going to compete, but I'm not going to go ahead and be in prep. And the USASF currently doesn't have that as a place for people to go. So lots of things are being looked at.
Yep, I'm unmuted. Okay. I found a couple of the reasons that were sent. So these are pros for allowing front handspring fronts in level 3. You can already do a front handspring front 3/4 to the seat. Someone said it's no more difficult or dangerous than a front walkover aerial. One of the few places where rules, where front and back tumbling rules don't align. It addresses a gap from current front handsprings in level 2 to front handspring layout in level 4. The risk is not increased by adding a front handspring before the tuck. Someone said Debbie Love said it was safe. The safety concerns aren't any different than front handspring fronts being allowed in level 4. Scoring can help position the skills so it isn't a focus for level 3 teams. And the ISF is allowing them for 23-24, and alignment was one of the goals.
All right, I think that answered that. Does anybody have anything else to type into the chat? No.
I'm going to stop sharing so I can see some of your lovely faces.
Can you see the chat now, Andre?
I need to switch over. I'm seeing who's
Oh, no
in
worries.
the waiting room.
Will level 1 and level 2 be looked at for rule changes? This appears to be heavier on the higher levels.
I don't believe there are any level 1 or 2 proposals for this season. I'd have to double check that, but I don't think any made it through the first review and made it to polling.
Okay.
So I don't anticipate any being made for next season.
Okay. Harold wants to know when this recording will be available online. Typically, it's the same day. Harold, like later on this evening, would be fairly typical. And yeah, that it looks like all of the questions have been answered.
Then thank you. If you have any additional dance questions, reach out to Sarah, not me. if you have cheer questions, please reach out to me. I almost said that backwards.
Don't send me cheer.
Yeah. If you send me dance, I will quickly forward it on to Sarah. So, if there are no additional questions, once again, we thank you for your time and participating in this process throughout the almost full year that we've been going through it for this cycle. And
I'd just like to
enjoy the
tag
rest of your
on,
week.
keep an eye out for, any correspondence that comes out about when we start this process next season and all of that, because as Andre showed, it starts pretty early and we do take your voices into consideration. So the earlier you can get into the conversation, the more informed everything is. So thank you to everybody that participated early.
I believe that is it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
And good luck the rest of the season.
Bye, everyone.